All right. Okay. So we're basically just got through each of these 20 questions. Feel free to add any commentary, ask any questions that maybe you have as well. Um, Questions that are mostly correct, we may not spend a whole lot of time on, but if you do need some clarification, please let us know. Okay. All right. So human resource management is deals with our recruiting and our training of the staff. Okay, that's the human resource. That's the people that are doing the job to help provide excellent customer service and excellent food to our guests. Oh, half of us got this one wrong. So let's take a look. The restaurant forecast element that counts the number of guests is called the guest counts or covers. So if you worked in a restaurant, you may say we have 200 covers tonight. What does that mean?
200 guests.
We have 200 guests. We have 200 people on the reservations on the books for today. Okay. So we typically are going to refer to guests as covers. That's the number of people. Okay. Um, what we talk about forecasting, what is forecasting? Just as a general term, what is forecasting?
Estimating.
It's predicting. Okay. So what can we like if we can predict what our guest count is, how does that affect our restaurant operations, which is what chapter 7 is all about?
I can give you an insight of like how much you need to prepare.
Okay, so how much food we need to order so we can prepare for that amount of guests. What else?
The employees will need.
The employees and labor that we're going to need, right? If we're not going to be that busy, then I'm not going to staff every single server. I may staff just enough to get me through if I'm not going to be that busy, because then on the days that I am very busy, I can maybe add an extra server that can just float around and help people, right? So I can use that labor money, that labor expense from a day that we're not busy. I can use it to add an extra person on the day that we are busy. And maybe their only job is to run food from the kitchen to the tables, right? As a food runner. I'm not actually waiting tables that day. I'm just in the kitchen waiting for food to be done and then taking it out to the table. That's when you get someone who's not your server bringing the food to your table, because that's probably their job is to run food that day. Okay. So we can use that guest count in order to do that. The other thing we want to think about is when we want to know what our market is doing or events that are happening in our market. Okay. When I say the term market, what does that mean?
Your audience.
Advertising the business.
No, not necessarily advertising or the audience. Our market is our area, right? So we might have like a downtown central business district market. We may have a San Antonio market. There's an Austin market. There's a Texas market, right? And so that's kind of the area that our guests are going to be coming in or staying. And so if I'm downtown and I know that we are next to the convention center, it might be a good idea for me to be a part of different associations that keep me posted on, okay, we have this conference or convention coming into town. It's going to bring in 30,000 dentists from the American Dental Association. So it's not going to be a regular Wednesday night for me because I've got 30,000 people coming in. Or coming up, what is it, October 24th? Paul McCartney is going to be playing at the Alamo Dome. So 60 plus thousand people are going to be downtown, and they're probably going to want places to go eat before they go to the show, places to go drink before or even after. And so understanding what the calendar looks like, the events that are happening in your market will help you better be prepared for your operations. There was even so the Valero Alamo Bowl. Who is not familiar with the Valero Alamo Bowl? Okay, who is familiar with the Valero Alamo Bowl? Awesome. So what is the Valero Alamo Bowl?
I don't know.
What's that? What is it? It is a football game. Yes, it is one of the college bowl games. Okay. It's not the championship bowl game, but it is one of the top college bowl games. It was developed in San Antonio to be a generator, a demand generator. What that means is that it is an event that was specifically created during a specific time so that we can generate demand in a time that's normally relatively low. Okay. So, for example, the Alamo Bowl happens between Christmas and New Year's. That traditionally is a time that's very slow in the tourism market because when people are traveling, or in the hotels specifically, because when people are traveling for vacation and for the holidays, they typically stay with their friends and family. They don't stay in hotels. And so they developed this bowl game. I think it's like 35 plus years old, 40 years old at this point. And it always happens somewhere between Christmas and New Year's, usually around like the 28th, 29th time frame. And so the Valero Alamo Bowl, they hadn't quite picked their teams yet. But I remember going to a luncheon and somebody from the bowl was there giving a presentation about what potential teams could be coming that particular year. And they said, if this school comes, you need to stock up on Lone Star Light. You have to have Lone Star Light beer. This school is notorious about drinking bars out of Lone Star Light. So whatever you think you might need, double it. And sure enough, that school came and they drank all the Lone Star Light. And if you hadn't been a member of that association and you hadn't attended that meeting, you maybe would not have ordered all that Lone Star Light. And then those people, once you're at a Lone Star Light, oh, I'm not going to go there anymore because I only drink Lone Star Light. I'm going to go to a place that does have it. And so that's how networking and being involved in different associations can help you. You kind of get the insider scoop. There's something else I was going to say about Alamo Bowl. I can't remember what it is now. Oh well, I forget. All right. So the different types of restaurant services we talked about French and American primarily in this quiz here. French obviously is where the food is on platters and it's served tableside. Okay, what is a major difference or a major consideration between serving French service or American service?
Americans more casual.
The American is a little bit more casual compared to the French service, but think about from the restaurant operations standpoint. What is the major difference between the two?
How your servers are trained?
Good, the training that your servers require.
Is French more like high class?
It is a little bit more high end, absolutely. And it requires more labor. It's more labor intensive. So labor is usually the highest cost in our restaurant operations, even more so in a place that offers that French level of service. Okay, I'm glad we all know first in, first out. I will tell your sanitation teachers that you passed this test. Okay. Product specifications. Now, this is one that I didn't quite expect you to understand or get right now, but we will definitely talk about product specifications when you take my RSTO 2301 Principles of Food and Beverage Cost Control, which is your culinary math class. And I am the only one who teaches it, so I will see you in class at some point. But RSTO 2301, we talk about the different product specifications. Who can give me a general ingredient that we might use in the kitchen? Salt. Okay. So salt. What types of salt are there?
Iodized.
Sea salt, iodized, pink Himalayan, kosher,
Black salt.
black salt.
What?
Rock
Yeah.
salt.
I've had like a butterscotch black salt cookie. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Yeah, it was super
What
tasty.
does that even taste like?
It tastes like salt.
It's
But
just
it's more of like it tasted just like salt, but it almost is more like for like the appearance, right? So think about like a peanut butter cookie, then you got like the black specks on it. It looks really impressive. But it tastes like just big chunks of like kosher salt. It's a similar flavor profile. Okay, I've heard of green salt. You can actually infuse salt with different herbs and things like that. Okay. What tells me what kind of salt I'm going to use?
Your recipe.
The recipe is going to tell me that, right? So whether I know if I'm going to use iodized salt, kosher salt, sea salt, whatever, The recipe is going to tell me that. And that's that product specification. So I'll look at the recipe. I can't just say go order salt. Okay, what kind of salt? Okay. Suggestive selling, we got mostly correct. So that's basically what's the difference between suggestive selling and upselling?
If someone has like a particular diet, suggested selling would be selling them on that diet. But upselling would be trying to be like, oh, do you want like an appetizer with that or upgrade your drinks or things like that?
Yeah, so upselling is usually things like adding things to something that already exists. So if someone's ordering the fettuccine Alfredo, would you like to add chicken or shrimp to that? That would be upselling. I'm going to add protein if it's not already included. Suggestive selling. How many of you have ever rolled up to a drive-through and they said, "Hey, welcome to Whataburger. Would you like to try our bacon Western double burger today?" That is suggestive selling. Okay. Welcome to TGI Fridays. Have you tried our new buffalo chicken wings? Would you be interested in trying? So that suggestive selling allows us to increase our revenue and also introduce maybe some of our guests to some of the things that we don't normally sell. Financial management, we got pretty good. Guess number of served. Okay, so how do we find the average of any number, any group of numbers?
Divide by how many?
Add them all up and divide by how many. So the same thing, we're going to add up all of our sales, take all of our receipts, and then divide them by the number of guests, and that's going to be our average guest check. Why do you think it's important to know what our average guest check is when we are looking at our restaurant operations?
See if you've made a quota or above quota.
Yeah. See what like the average check price is. Are people ordering appetizers, entree, and dessert, or are they only sticking to entrees? Right? That would tell us what their average check is. Are they ordering beverages or are they sticking with water? We might have a goal mind, like let's say, okay, for lunch, we want to average about $20 per person. That's going to help us forecast. Okay, I've got $20 per person, 100 people. Okay, I'm going to plan on at least $2,000 in sales. That can help us extend that. And so then we can see how far we're off from that. And if we're too far off, okay, maybe I need to train my staff on suggestive selling. Maybe I need to train my staff now on upselling so we can increase those ticket prices. Or maybe it's a scenario where, like for me, when I worked at TGI Fridays, my server trainer literally told me not to charge people for their drinks. Because if I think they're cool, then they're going to take that $2 and add it to my tip instead of paying for the iced tea. How many times do you think people added those $2 to my tip?
Like
Almost
two.
never.
Like never, almost never, right? My manager, Kristen, was like, "David, I see there's 4 T's on that table, but I don't see them on the computer on the check in the computer. Please make sure you add those beverages before you drop the check." All right? That's telling me, restaurant operations, she's checking up on me. And she's going to make a note. Table 42 at 2 o'clock. I told David this. So then at the end of my shift, she's going to go back to the computer system, check table 42 at 2 o'clock. And if there's no beverages on there, we're going to have a conversation. Okay. And that's what happened. She asked me, "David, why did you not put beverages on that check?" And I told her, "This person over here at the other TGI Fridays told me not to do it. And then they would add the money to my tip." And then Kristen said, "Okay, but how do people tip? How do people tip?"
Based on their.
By percentage, right? So if I add those 4 T's at $2 a piece, that's $8. That's an extra 80 cents. Or 20%, that's an extra $1.60 on my tip. And then you add that for 20 tables, and that's almost an extra $30 for the day. So you better believe I started adding everything. I'm like, "Oh, you want ranch with that? Okay, that'll be an extra 25 cents. Oh, you want chicken with that? Of course I'm going to upsell you." Because the higher your ticket price is, the higher my tip is, right? Because you're basically on a percentage. And so we have to know, we have to do those things. We have to work with our staff. And so if we notice that our average checks prices are dropping, maybe there's a reason why that is. We got that one correct. Excellent. Par stock, we'll talk about in cost control, but there's a certain amount of minimum product we have to have on hand in order to operate. Okay. The analogy that I like to use is golf, right? In golf, you have a par. If it's a par three, that means you have 3 times to hit that ball to get it in the hole. That's the minimum amount of times that you have to get to hit that hole, that ball into the hole. Same thing with our restaurant. If we're going to serve 200 people, there's a minimum amount of hamburgers that we have to have on hand in order to serve 200 people during that time period. Okay. And so we deal with that. If we order too much food, if we go over the par and we order too much food, what's a potential issue with that? It could go to waste in what way? It could spoil, it could go bad. Could also grow legs and just walk out the door. Okay. I got a family barbecue this weekend. I got a big family and we're having hamburgers. All right. So I'm going to take this package of hamburgers with me. Okay. I never did that, by the way. Okay. For the record. But we want to, if we have too much inventory, we've paid for it. And if it goes bad before we can sell it, we paid for it, but we didn't bring any money in for it, which means our food cost percentage is going to go sky high. Yes.
So is that why restaurants put things on sale to get rid of it quicker if they can sell it before?
In a way, yes or no. It depends. But I would say sometimes if something is considered a special, then it might be like, let's say we have a chicken salad sandwich on special today for lunch. Well, maybe it's because we had leftover rotisserie chicken from the night before that we just chopped up, and now we're going to call it a special. It's not on our menu all the time because we're not going to guarantee we're going to have chicken every single night, but tonight we did. Okay, so sometimes our par is established based on regular business hours, regular operation. Well, what happens if it rains all weekend and nobody comes to eat? We still have all that food we bought, and so we might want to try to use it up in some kind of a creative way. So that does happen from time to time. But there are also, think about, have you been to a restaurant where it's the same special every single Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? That's them planning ahead and they know, okay, today is Wednesday. We're going to make this many numbers of this special because we know people come in on Wednesdays for this special. And so that's a way for the restaurants maybe to pick a lower day that we have less number of guests and add something that seems more appealing. So to get people in the door, maybe as a special. And then you get there and your enchilada plate is only $6, but your tea is $3. Right? And so you pay that $3 for that tea that cost me only about 25 cents. So I'm gonna make a lot of money on that tea. Or you love those enchiladas so much that the next time you're looking for a place to go eat, you're gonna come eat those enchiladas even though they're not on special that day. So there's lots of different ways to get people in our restaurants to help get them familiar with our menus and introduce them to the different things we have to offer. Labor cost is typically the highest because labor does not include just the wages. The wages is, okay, I make $7.25 an hour, I work 10 hours, that's $72.50, okay? That's my wages. Labor also includes the salary that you're paying your manager. It also includes the benefits that you pay for your employees, and it also includes the taxes. So if you were to look at your paycheck, you have the taxes that you pay on that. That is only half of the taxes. Your company, your boss has to pay the other half of those taxes. So that's a huge liability. I don't say liability, but it's a tax liability. It's a huge expense that's added on. So think about this legislation that just recently passed, where we have no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. That's not only going to help the associates, it's also going to help the businesses. Because when those associates claim their tips on their at the end of their shift, the taxes come from the tips, but the business also has to pay that same amount of taxes on those tips. So now if there's no taxes to be paid on those tips, that's going to help the business have a little bit more money to maybe reinvest in some way to their employees or maybe reinvest something into their organization. And so those types of things are relatively helpful. And I think it's things that the average person that doesn't understand the business side of restaurants doesn't quite understand and get. So purchase orders, that's basically a list of everything. Think about your grocery list. But the important thing about the purchase order is it dictates the price that you're going to pay. So for things that are like meat and seafood that might fluctuate based on the market price, if I place my order on Tuesday, it doesn't matter if they drop my order off on Thursday, I'm going to be paying Tuesday's prices. And so when they come in to drop that off, I need to make sure that the prices that they're charging me, the invoice, the receipt they're going to give me matches my purchase order. All right? We talked about the American already. How does the receiving process deal with quantity, quality, and price? I just mentioned about price. I'm gonna take that purchase order, and when that delivery is made, I'm going to compare the price. Okay. But what about quality and quantity? How does the receiving process double check that? Those two components. What's that?
Inspect the product.
We're gonna inspect the product. Good. Yes.
And see if it's all there because it might be missing.
Yeah. We want to check the product to make sure that it's actually there and it's the quality. If I ordered yellow bell peppers, I don't want orange bell peppers. I want yellow bell peppers. So I'm going to inspect the quality and also the quantity of those things. Okay. When I was in Maine one summer, I actually I tried out popcorn chicken because it was on special, and I was like, let me get some popcorn chicken, see what this is all about. And so I ordered the popcorn chicken. The delivery came. I got this box. It was about this big. It wasn't very big. I thought, that's not very big for $18 that I spent on popcorn chicken. Smaller than I thought. And then on big red letters on the white box, it says frozen fresh seafood. And I was like, okay, whatever. Chicken of the sea, right? A little Jessica Simpson moment. And so then about a week later, I was like, let me go in and try some of this popcorn chicken. I'm the cook. I get to eat whatever food I want. And so I went in and I opened it up and it was lobster meat. They had put the wrong sticker on the box. So the sticker said popcorn chicken. And so when the delivery driver scanned the barcode on the chicken or on the box, it said chicken. So he brought it in and dropped it off. And I paid $18 for about $120 worth of lobster meat. It was all shelled and all wonderful. We had lobster rolls. It was fantastic. Right? It's a great error on my part. That means somebody who was expecting lobster probably got popcorn chicken. So a little bit less desirable on their end. But we're always checking the quality, the quantity, and the price. One other example I have is when I was working at Maine as well. One time, fresh green beans were on special. And this is, to your point, about things being on special. When Cisco puts it on special, or Benny Keith, or I use Performance Food Group, when they put it on special, it's probably because they ordered too much and they got to get rid of it before it goes bad, right? So I ordered a half a bushel of fresh green beans. I had never ordered fresh green beans before like that. And so it shows up and it's in this really charming little box, this wooden box that's got like wire wrapped around it. I felt like a farmer and right. And so I pull the box open and this is about 2 days after I got it. Peel the box open, start washing the green beans, and there's pockets of mold inside the beans, like giant big white balls of mold. I had never ordered green beans before. So I hadn't been trained. I didn't know that I had to actually open it up and fluff it up to see if because had I known that, I would have rejected it and it would have gone back, right? And I wouldn't have paid for it. But because I signed for it, I paid for it. And then the last thing when we talk about preparation, I went to a farmer up in Maine. My boss wanted me to support the local economy. So I found a farmer and I got my fresh lettuce from him. So I would call him up. 30 minutes later, I'd show up and he literally had just cut the lettuce. The most delicious lettuce. Usually I had to train the assistant cook to fill the sink all the way up with water because usually we find on average, I don't know, about 4 to 5 slugs. We would, because it was literally fresh from the ground. We would find big stones and rocks and things like that. So I had to teach them how to clean the lettuce appropriately. And then one day I had just gone and got like 12 heads of lettuce, beautiful red leaf lettuce, right? And so my assistant cook, she's like, David, I finished prepping the salads, but do you have more lettuce? And I was like, what do you mean more lettuce? I just got 12 heads today. And she was like, no, most of it was dead and brown. She didn't know what red leaf lettuce was. And I looked at the trash, and the trash was full of all the red leaf lettuce. And she had saved the little bit of green lettuce that was around the edge. And my heart sunk for a second, and I was like, it's about $150 worth of lettuce right there in the trash can. And so this is a teachable moment. This is what we call red leaf lettuce, which means the leaves are red. Sometimes our staff doesn't know that if we don't train them. I couldn't be upset with her because I just assumed everybody knew what red leaf lettuce was. Okay. So when we're receiving things, we want to check the quantity, the quality, and the price. Okay. Sanitation and safety. That is an operation. We want to make sure things are operating in a healthy and safe manner. That our tables are being wiped down in between each visitor. That our prep cook is not prepping raw chicken and then before sanitizing start prepping raw vegetables for the salad. Okay, so that is an operations. We talked about labor. Back of the house is issuing. So with the back of the house, we want to make sure the right people get the right ingredients. Okay. So how many of y'all are in a lab class right now? Okay. Your ingredients are in your lab when you get there, most of them, right? Okay. So somebody has filled out a form, and then somebody has gone to the storage and pulled all that product and put it on that cart. Somebody is authorized to do that. Most of the times, if you need something out of storage, what do you have to do? Do you just walk into the storage and get it? No, usually your chef has to request that either Samantha or Brianna will go in and get it for you. That is inventory control. That's issuing. So we know what's being sent out and so you can't just go in and grab something. Or you say, hey, I need only a cup of buttermilk. You don't walk into the dairy fridge and get a brand new container of buttermilk. They may know, hey, there's in lab 207, you're in 209, and 207, they have buttermilk. You can just go grab some from them. So that way we don't open a bunch of it and then it all goes bad. Okay? So that issuing is really important. The production control sheets, that's how we know how much to prepare. So we go back to that par. On a busy night, we might need 6 trays of enchiladas to be prepped. On a slower night, maybe only 4 trays of enchiladas. And so when you come in as a prep cook, that's usually a good entry-level position into the kitchen as a prep cook. And so you'll walk in to work that night. The chef will give you, here's your prep sheet. Here's your recipe. This is what I need you to make. And go for it. Now here at St. Philip's, we've got some time. You're working on one salad or one soup, and you've got about 3 to 4 hours to finish that. In the industry, you've got some soup to make, you have some salad to make, you have some sauces to make, and you have a time frame to do all that in. And so here, learn those skills where you can perfect the skills, and then when you go out in the industry, you'll increase that speed and that productivity. Okay. And then the last thing is our food cost percentage. This is how we can determine our effectiveness of controlling our cost. Okay. So think about it this way. A percentage is per 100, right? Percent means per 100. So 1% is 1 penny of every dollar that we bring in sales. Okay. So if I say my food cost is 30%, that means for every dollar that comes in, 30 cents is going to go out to cover the cost of all my ingredients to make that food. Now, if my labor is also 30%, now we're at 30 plus 30 is 60%. That means 60 cents of every dollar that's coming in is going to cover the labor and our food cost. We got 40 cents left of that dollar. Of that 40 cents, is that all profit? No, we have insurance, we have licenses, we have our Spotify subscription, because legally you're not supposed to play music unless you are paying for a business license to play that music. There are all these extra costs that are built in, and then we have our profit. Okay, so if our profit is 18%, that means 18 cents of every dollar that's coming in is going to be our profit. Okay, so yeah, your restaurant may make $2 million a year in sales, but if your profit's only 10%, you're only making 200,000. And I say only 200,000. That's still a lot of money. But when your sales are 2 million and you're making $200,000 after you've covered all your expenses, that is a relatively tight margin. So if I'm making $2 million in sales for the year, and I can decrease my food cost to 29%, that one penny, I can add 20 grand to my profit just by reducing by 1%. An example that I use, I'll finish with this. An example that I use in my cost control class is I talk about lemons with iced tea. Okay. How many of you like lemons with your iced tea? How many of you do not? Okay. So just a few people. But if we automatically put a lemon on our iced tea, and those few people just take it off and put it on the table, then it goes in the trash. All right. That's just for that lunch period. Let's say we sell 200 iced teas times 360 days a year times the cost of that one little piece of lemon. It could add up. It depends based on the calculations that I do. It can add up anywhere between $4,000 to $9,000 in a year for a lemon wedge. And if we could change our standard procedure of saying, would you like lemon with your tea? That 2.5 seconds could potentially save $9,000. What could you do with an extra $9,000 as a business owner?
A lot.
Pay bills.
Yeah, right? And so that's the kind of things that we'll talk about in that restaurant operations and that controlling food service costs class. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Yes.
So if like with all like that profit stuff, if all the stuff is going back into like the business, paying the employees, whatever, where does the profit go? Like who does that go to? That's always like
I mean, ideally, that's your paycheck. That's your profit. If you're the owner,
for the owner. Okay.
if the owner, the investors, to pay back your loan for the bank that you took out to open your restaurant, ideally, that profit is going back to, if you're the chef owner, that's where it's going to. That's your paycheck. Yeah.
100% profit. Let's
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, I have a 3:00 meeting downtown at the St. Anthony, so I will not get your video posted until tomorrow. But I will see you all on Monday next week. We're going to go over chapters 8 and 9.
How does it?
Monday and Wednesday is regular classes.
Wait, let me go.
Regular